Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway on September the 13th, 2021. Over the weekend, if you watched the solemn proceedings in Shanksville, your concerns grew about the infirmity of President Biden. And I believe that those concerns are now fueling concerns that the effort to get Americans and our Afghans allies out of Afghanistan will falter because it draws attention to the president. They're doing everything they can to get attention off of the president. Do you think he's infirm? 1-800-520-1234. I do not believe he has dementia. I do not believe he has Alzheimer's. I just think he's very much evidencing his almost 79 years and that this is hurting America badly. The news out of Afghanistan was terrible all weekend long. The Talibs announced new rules for female students. They're not going with the blue burqas. If you go to my Twitter feed, you'll see they're going with all black from head to toe with an eye slit coverings. The same thing that ISIS wore. The Telegraph in Great Britain's headline is Taliban parade women in hooded veils that appear to block vision. There is one story, exactly one story in the Financial Times that was picked up by the Washington Post of an Afghan-American woman. That means she's just an American. And her escape via secretive CIA route. We got one story over the weekend. The Post notes that space for dissent opened in Afghanistan after Taliban was ousted 20 years ago. Now the militants are trying to slam it shut. Trying is not the word. They're killing people. They're murdering people. The Wall Street Journal has a lead editorial, those still left behind in Afghanistan. That's where my focus is. We have left people behind. One person, I'll play you the tape of this later, believes, one group in the United States believes we left 20,000 Americans and green card holders behind. But first, let's go to this infirmity issue. Here's Joe Biden in Shanksville, Pennsylvania on Saturday, cut number 7.
The point is, what I'm thinking about today is what these people who, and I've got a small piece of one of the beams they gave me last time, or not last time, but how many times ago, and the flag they gave me. And I'm thinking of, what are the people who died? What would they be thinking? They think this makes sense for us to be doing this kind of thing where you ride down the street and someone has a sign saying F so-and-so, or, I mean, it's not who we are.
And then he went on to say this, cut number 8.
This idea that, what do you want to do with Biden? I want to box him. I should be so lucky. You know what I mean? But it is the kinds of things, or, stuff that is coming out of Florida, stuff that's coming out of, Robert E. Lee had been in Afghanistan. You'd have won. No, anyway, I'm telling you too much.
He's rambling. He's not making any sense. He's absolutely refusing to engage with the press in any meaningful way, and I believe it's endangering those Americans we've left behind. I have a new column in the Washington Post. If you just Google Hugh Hewitt, Washington Post, you'll find it. The title is What We Still Don't Know About Americans in Afghanistan. It reads thus. The phrase credibility gap was popularized during the presidency of Lyndon Johnson. Democrat Senator Bill Fulbright of Arkansas used it to describe the inability to get straight answers from LBJ and his minions on escalating the Vietnam War. To all subsequent presidents have come the charge of a credibility gap. President Biden, Secretary of State Blinken, Press Secretary Jen Psaki now all suffer from a credibility gap, born of obfuscation over the Afghan catastrophe. Though the State Department could count the minimum number of Americans defined by me as all U.S. passport holders, no one at State or the White House can seem to give us what that minimum number is. This past Sunday, White House Chief of Staff told Ron Klain, that's now 8 days ago, there were about 100 Americans left. On Thursday, Lindsey Graham said there are hundreds still stranded. We have a right to know the scale of this crisis, the minimum number of U.S. passport holders known by our authorities to still be in Afghanistan. It is America held hostage 2.0, and we don't know the scale of the crisis. Jen Psaki at the White House on Friday said it's a handful of Americans. It's shocking to hear her use that term. Americans do not come in handfuls. They come in one, and each one is a crisis. We must also learn the state of the president's robustness. I believe my eyes. The president is, in my opinion, infirm. He is too old. Soon to be 79, Biden shows his years every time he appears in public. Biden is not incapacitated. He's not sidelined. He is simply lacking the energy in the executive that Alexander Hamilton identified in the Federalist Papers as the key ingredients in a president's competence and federal government success. This isn't an issue of chronological age, but simply of energy. Biden lacks it, and the press fails to tell us what is going on. Please go and get my column. Send it everywhere. We got to become honest about this. You talk about it. I talk about it. Everybody talks about it, but the media won't talk about it because it's impolite to note that the president is infirm. It is not impolite to note that we've left Americans behind. John Androzek of Five for Fighting has put out a new song, which I want you to hear, called Blood on Our Hands. It is tough. It is time for people to focus on, in fact, that we have left Americans behind, we have left our Afghan allies behind, and we have blood on our hands. Here's the song. And I'll tell you, it will hurt your feelings, but I want you to send it anywhere. Five for Fighting, Blood on My Hands.
Got blood on my hands. Got blood on my hands. And I don't understand what's happening. There's blood on these hands, and still Americans left to the Taliban. Now how's that happening? Winking, blinking, can't you look me in the eyes? Willy, Millie, tell me, when did you decide this will defend your sacred motto? Now means never mind. Hands, got blood on my hands, got blood on my hands. Flag of the Taliban. Over Afghanistan. General Austin, is there no honor in shame? Can you spell pogrom without the letters in blame? Did Uncle Joe stick a drip in your veins? Hands, I can't hear her scream. If she's not, she's not, she's not on TV. I can't hear him scream. If he's not, he's not, he's not on TV. To every Afghan ally that we left behind, every child who won't know freedom, faces covered in blindness for this American promise. Now ish in the fire. Hands, got blood on our hands. Hey Joe, just one American. what's happening.
Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. That's John Androzik. His new song, Blood on Our Hands, is going to shake a lot of people up. Not Joni Ernst and Salena Zito. Selena's my guest. She sat down with Senator Ernst. They talked about our abandonment of the Afghans. Good morning, Salena.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am troubled by the lack of attention being paid to, hundreds of Americans still left in Afghanistan, and then millions of women who are going not under a burqa. I mean, have you seen what the Taliban are making women wear?
Yes, I have. I've been following this, since before, we left there, and you could just see the writing on the wall that the plan was we're leaving and that's it, no matter who is left behind. And it's been extraordinarily troubling.
Salena, do you think the president is infirm?
I don't know what to think about the president, but I do know that what I do see from him, the small little snippets, and it really is snippets of what we see of him. I find it incredibly disturbing, troubling. I don't mean this as someone, is looking at it from a partisan point of view. I'm saying this as someone who is looking at someone who doesn't seem to have it all there.
He's old. Let me play a couple of cuts. This is in your state, Shanksville. Joe Biden cut number 7 yesterday or Saturday.
Point
cut
is,
number 7.
what I'm thinking about today is what these people who, and I've got a small piece of one of the beams they have. They gave me last time, or not last time, but how many times ago, and the flag they gave me. And I'm thinking of, what are the people who died? What would they be thinking? They think this makes sense for us to do this kind of thing where you ride down the street and someone has a sign saying F so-and-so?
He's upset, Salena, that people have F Joe Biden signs. He went on, though, and he rambled more. Cut number 7, cut number 6. No, excuse me, cut number 8.
This idea that, what do you want to do with Biden? I want to box him. I should be so lucky. But it is the kinds of things, or, stuff that is coming out of Florida, stuff that's coming out of, Robert E. Lee had been in Afghanistan. You'd have won. No, anyway, I'm telling you too much.
So, Salena, this is on C-SPAN, so they've caught him talking to voters, and it's just, he's an old man. He is infirm. I don't think he's got Alzheimer's. I don't think he has dementia. I just think he's an old man.
Right, absolutely. I mean, we've seen this with members in our own families or neighbors. When you get old, things get scrambled, and you start throwing different pieces of conversations all together in one. And that's, I think, exactly what he's exhibiting there.
You get repetitive and stubborn as well. And I have dealt with repetitive and stubborn old people. And that's, again, it's not dementia. It's just repetitive and stubborn. And as a result, millions of women and hundreds of Americans, they're absolutely stranded. And I don't believe the media isn't covering this.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in constant contact with people that are trying to get people out of there, to get men and women and children out of there. I have several stories about it. People can check it out, SelenaZito.com. But they're deeply troubling. And I will tell you this, and I have a story coming about it out this week. People haven't forgotten about it. This is something that has imprinted on the American psyche. This is not just because it's gotten out, it has been removed from the front pages of our newspapers or the newsletters that go out or on social media, doesn't mean that people, the American people, have forgotten about it. I have seen so many displays of for honoring the 13 soldiers at high school football games, at restaurants, at bars, on the side of the road. This is lingering with the American people, despite the media not talking about it every day in the way that they should.
We talk about the media. We're not saying there's a conspiracy. We're just saying they've turned the page. They want to talk about anything else. They want to talk about COVID or anything other than the deeply disgraceful exit and what is happening. I mean, if you look at what's happening, it's terrible. And people do not want to see that, or at least news executives don't want to. I think the Biden people are calling up network executives and say, don't cover exam. I know that's happening, as a matter of fact. I know that's happening. They're lobbying to get Afghanistan off of the air.
Yeah, well, the American people have changed. They don't, it used to be when you and I were kids, when we were growing up, what was on the news, what was on the front page, it was what people talked about and cared about. These days, people are much more selective about what they pay attention to.
I hope you're right. I hope they go to Washington Post and Google Hugh Hewitt and Washington Post and read and respond to and mail on this concern about the president's infirmity, and that they go to SelenaZito.com, read about your interview with Joni Ernst, and come right back for the next hour of the Hugh Hewitt Show. Morning, Glory America. Bonjour. Hi, Canada. Hugh Hewitt live inside the Beltway on this Monday, September the 14th, 2021, joined by Jake Sherman of Punchbowl News. If you're not getting Punchbowl News sent to you every morning, you're missing something. Good morning, Jake.
Hey, Hugh. How are you?
Not good. I think what's going on in Afghanistan, I did a survey of the international news. It's getting a lot more attention in Great Britain and abroad. But the women back into the full-body black veils, the rounding up of Afghans who work with Americans. You noted in Punchbowl News this morning that the Senate is back, and I wanted to read this part. The Senate GOP is going to work all week, you wrote, to keep Afghanistan front and center. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken will be at the Senate Foreign Relations Tuesday. Republican members are readying tough questions on the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. Blinken is in front of the House Foreign Affairs Committee today. And then the Armed Services Committee is holding a closed briefing with General Scott Miller, who commanded U.S. Afghan, but we won't get that. Now, looking over at Senate Foreign Relations, we've got Senator Risch from Idaho, Rubio from Florida, Johnson, Wisconsin, Mitt Romney, very smart guy, Rob Portman, very smart guy, Rand Paul, Todd Young, John Barrasso, Ted Cruz, Mike Rounds, smart guy, Bill Haggard, he's been on the show a lot. Have these people talked to you about what they want to get out of Blinken?
Yeah, I think, well, broadly speaking, I think so not only in the House, but not only in the Senate, but in the House as well, I think there's going to be serious questions about, I would kind of look at it in three phases. I'd say, number one, there's going to be a lot of questions about what the intelligence said, what the preparation said before U.S. troops were pulled out and before what we have termed and what everyone has termed the disastrous and deadly withdrawal from Afghanistan, number one. Number two, how many Americans are still there, and what are the plans to get it out? Now, the administration has said to me and various other people, I'm assuming the same, that they believe the Americans that are still there are there by choice, by and large. There's obviously a large issue of people who have worked with the United States over the years, and that's something that they're going to have to contend with. Number three, the third plank of what I think they'll look at is going forward, right? What is the U.S.'s relationship with the Taliban going forward? Is the U.S. going to recognize the Taliban government? I think the answer to that is going to be complicated. I don't think they have an answer on that yet. I think what they're going to say, what Blinken has said so far, and you know this, Hugh, is that the U.S. has been working with the Taliban to get people out of Afghanistan to places like Doha and Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, a lot of other places. And their recognition in the international community will be dependent on their behavior on the international stage. So that's kind of what I'm expecting.
And I would hope a different thing entirely unfolds. And Mike McCall's a very smart guy. He's the chairman of the House, ranking Republican on House Foreign Affairs. Joe Wilson can be blunt. Darrell Issa is a very smart guy. Lee Zeldin. Ann Wagner is very, very sharp. There's some people over there. Ken Buck is he can brawl. Claudia Tenney is a very competent person. I just want them to focus on a line you use, Jake, by and large. I'm not buying by and large. they know the minimum number of Americans and green card holders who have been in touch with the American embassy or with the State Department or with the Army. They have a minimum number of contacts. I want to know how many that are. And I want to know how many SIVs there were. We heard 20,000 over the weekend, SIV eligible people on the news. And I wouldn't let him get away with the talking point, even if they all have to ask the same question again and again, Jake. How many Americans are still there? How many green card holders? Minimum number. And they're going to say, well, low 100. Because they have obfuscated on this. They are not, they're going with the by and large. Am I not right, Jake?
Yeah, they are. And they believe, and just to dig a little bit deeper what I said a second ago, they believe that there's a large number of those people, green card holders and other Americans or people who could gain entry into America that were there when the Taliban ruled last time and intend to be there this time. The SIVs are a different issue, obviously, but a different issue entirely. I don't mean to brush over it, but they're a different issue entirely. But they believe that, again, that there are people who could gain entry into the United States that are not gaining entry by choice. Now, of course, obviously, people who are in touch with the embassy or in touch with the Army is a different story. I saw this morning, by the way, a terrific story in the New York Times that there's been a couple of Afghan pilots who have landed in Uzbekistan who have gained entry into Doha via the United States. So stories like that are beginning to come out. And frankly, Hugh, I don't think you can underestimate, and we talked about this before, but the impact of Congress here. You have members of Congress who are in constant touch with people in Afghanistan who have been facilitating these passages. So it's pretty impressive on that front. That's Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, yes, it is. And I think, for example, the Mazar-e-Sharif 6 planes, that disappeared over the weekend. I don't know what happened to those planes. I don't know what happened to those people. It got merged with the Thursday and Friday flight. And then Jen Psaki said, there are only a handful of Americans left. And Americans don't come in handfuls. I wrote this in my new Washington Post column. They come in ones. And I think they really want us to go to, a bunch of these people don't want to come home, which is not responsive. If I was in court, the answer is, would the court please instruct the witness to respond to the question, the minimum number of Americans and green card holders? There's 2 questions that have contacted you and expressed an interest in leaving. That's a very straightforward factual question. It does not give away any operational security issues whatsoever. And I would just hammer them again and again. Then, Jake, and this is sensitive, I think the president is infirm. And I wrote that in the Washington Post today. I got more evidence. I wrote that on Friday and sent it in. It got published yesterday. But it's the display of his infirmity at Shanksville, his rambling kind of string seriatim of words. How many people have this concern in your newsroom? People don't talk about it, but on the studio set, but everyone's talking about it to me.
Well, since our newsroom is only a couple people, we don't have that problem. Listen, I think they're of course you're not. I'm not trying to downplay what you're saying. You're not the only person that said that. Now, I have no evidence. I'm not a, I don't have the capacity to say whether he's infirm or not. I just don't have the capacity to say that.
What does your eye tell you about his robustness and his energy? Infirmity has nothing to do with dementia or Alzheimer's. Just energy, just out and about, going places, talking to people, doing stuff off the cuff.
I mean, I think he's been doing stuff off the cuff. I don't share this opinion, Hugh. I think that I think his speech has been kind of consistent for the last couple of years. I mean, listen, he's older than he once was, but I don't have any reason to believe he's not fully there. Personally,
I don't either. I just think he's an old man who's stubborn, and I would like Blinken to walk us through what the president knew and when he knew it, and what he decided and when he decided it.
I think he's going to have to do that. I mean, I think there's no doubt about that, and I think one thing that he's going to be saying a lot of is that the military commanders, I mean, I think Republicans will be smart and they will draw this out, but that military commanders were against this and were not unanimously behind Biden. I think that's something that's going to come out in the next 2 days.
Will Democrats attempt to defend Blinken, who Chris Wallace on this show on Friday said he's unimpressed with Blinken. He's weak. He doesn't project strength. Are they invested in defending Tony Blinken?
Yeah, for the most part. We've not far that they're not. There's been, a lot of talk about whether he, so to speak, the administration has signaled that there is no sacrificial lamb here, and they don't believe. I mean, that's the interesting thing here, Hugh, is they actually don't believe they've done anything wrong. They don't believe that they've botched this in a major way. And I think that's going to be a point of tension over the next couple of days, because I think if you have an administration that just goes up there and says, listen, we did the job, we got people out, and that's that. And that was our mission. I think that's going to be a tough argument for them.
Have you heard John Androzik's new song, Blood on Our Hands?
I've not.
Okay, it came out. It's releasing today. I got an advance copy last night. And I think there are millions of Americans who are aghast that we have condemned the people of Afghanistan to this. And it's so brutal and so quick, Jake. And, of course, it's in the overseas press a lot more than it is here. I barely see any mention of this, but the all-black, it's worse than the blue burqa. I mean, there's not even an eye slit. There's no mouth slit in this stuff.
Yeah, it's a new day there, and not a particularly hopeful one for Afghans.
No, it's like ISIS. And yesterday, Mike Morrell, no Republican, no conservative, saying that every jihadist in the world is going to go to Afghan. Let's close there. Any reporting on that about whether or not it's become the new ISIS caliphate?
Well, I mean, I think that's going to come out all this week. I mean, I think that is one of the top questions people are going to ask. What is the future there? And I think that's something that Blinken's going to be forced to answer.
I'm going to be reading Punchbowl News for this. This is today at the House Foreign Affairs Committee, tomorrow at the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. Get Punchbowl News. You'd learn stuff like that. Thank you, Jake Sherman. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Joined now by Hotline Josh. Josh Kraushaar is with the National Journal, where he covers politics in Washington, D.C. Good morning, Josh. How are you?
Good. Good morning, Hugh.
What do you expect from Tony Blinken's appearances before the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee this week?
Yeah, this afternoon in front of the House Committee. This is going to be a tough bipartisan grilling of the Secretary of State over his handling of Afghanistan, specifically of what he did and didn't know about the process of trying to get our allies and frankly Americans still left behind enemy lines. And you see partisan breakdowns, and you have just one party really reaming the witness and the other party defending him. There are a lot of House Democrats, Senate Democrats as well, who I think are going to ask tough questions. This is a bipartisan issue. There's a lot of bipartisan concern, and it's not going to be an easy hearing for Secretary of State Blinken.
You know, if the Republicans and those concerned Democrats will be disciplined, they will find out two answers. How many Americans are in touch with you who want to get out, and how many green card holders are in touch with you who want to get out? And they have their talking points. They talk about, well, it's hard to say, people don't register. That's all BS. It's time to say, how many do you know we have to get out? And before they ask anything out, real minimum numbers. Do you think they'll have the discipline to get to that? Because he is just a talking box. He's got a word salad of responses to the fact we left hundreds of people there.
Yeah. Look, the initial Biden administration response was, there may be people that haven't contacted the embassy or contacted the American government, but they now do have a number of people who have been in touch with the State Department or in touch with various officials or even private groups, and they haven't put out a number. They've been very hazy on the precise number, and they've also sort of elided over the number of Americans and the number of folks with green cards that have every right to come to this country as well. And, I think that'll be a big theme of the hearing. But that's been one of the things politically that they've come across as very slippery, that they're not willing to pin down a number of how many folks are stuck behind enemy lines now in Afghanistan, American and green card holders, and it's not a good look.
I also believe they've got to push him on how energetic is the president in this. I think he's infirm, Josh. I watched him again on Saturday. Last week I came to this conclusion after 4 speeches on Afghanistan. I don't know if you share my opinion. I don't think he has dementia. I don't think he has Alzheimer's. I just think he's old and is showing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is more from a political perspective. Going down that road, I don't think it's helpful for Republicans. I think it's about his decision-making process, and that's going to be a big vulnerability here. We're still dealing in real time of efforts taking place from, and to his credit, I think the State Department, what I've heard from several sources, the State Department is on the down low working with a lot of these citizens and allies trying to get out, but it's really tough. It's not easy under Taliban rule for these Americans who are in Afghanistan to get out safely. So, look, I think the credibility and also the judgment are going to be the big questions that
I understand the political risks of talking about the president's infirmity and his age. But you know what? It's dangerous to this country. It is just absolutely dangerous if he does not have the energy to take the meetings and absorb the data and stay on top of stuff. If he's just sitting there issuing edicts and no one can approach him about them, we're in a bad situation, Josh, and I'm worried about it. I'm worried about Taiwan. I'm worried about Ukraine. I'm worried about the Iranian nuclear bomb because I don't think the president is up to this.
I will say, as far as Biden's view on Afghanistan goes, there's plenty of documentary evidence that he was, well beyond anyone in the Obama administration wanting to withdraw troops back then. He's, there's been contemporaneous reporting that he was like the most far out Democratic voice trying to do what he did in withdrawing all the troops. So, you could say that like the execution was hampered because maybe he didn't have his fastball in terms of managing the situation. But as far as the position and the ideology goes, I think that goes beyond. Before, I should say, he may have lost a step because of his age.
Well, okay, we'll come back to that. My post column is anyone can go read it. Now let's talk about Blinken. Chris Wallace was damning of Blinken on this show Thursday, saying that he's a staff man and that he had no respect in the Obama White House and that what little respect he had, it's gone. What do you make of that? I mean, it's pretty devastating for a broadcaster who's neutral like Chris Wallace to say Blinken's not got the game you need to be Secretary of State.
Yeah, and Hugh, remember the McCain speech back, I think it was in 2014 when he was up for a lower level position, and McCain was one of the Republicans against him and scathing. Look, I will tell you, he got a strong bipartisan endorsement in his nomination for Secretary of State. So, not a lot of Biden cabinet members got that level of support. So, there is a little bit, I think, of Monday morning quarterbacking. Everyone knew, like Blinken was more of a staff guy. It's not John Kerry. He's not an elected official. He's not a politician. He's a staff guy that moved up the ranks. I know Republicans that had a better opinion, a positive opinion of him. But ultimately, the are what matters. And if there's any harm done to Americans in Afghanistan, it's going to be on his watch.
And they've just got to pound him. They've got to get the answers out of how many Americans are at risk, green card holders, and how many SIVs. Josh Kraushaar, follow him at Hotline. Josh, I'll be right back, America. Stay tuned.